Hi.
Georgia.
It's nice to meet you.
You too, you too.
So I read your bio online and I saw that you grew up in Mildura,
I did.
which is funny because my family is from Broken Hill, which is only a couple of hours away from Mildura. I was really interested in hearing what your experiences of growing up in that area were like.
Yeah. Well, it was in the 40s and 50s, so very conservative, as you can imagine, and that there was no culture really to speak of. There was no plays, no things, and because we lived out of town, 4 miles out of town, and we didn't have a car, so it wasn't easy to get anywhere. But I left. I became pregnant at 17 and left and moved, got married because there wasn't no options in those days. Well, not good options. Abortion was illegal. Single mothers, there was no pension for single mothers. So the bloke I was pregnant to was fortunate. He wanted to marry me, so we moved to Melbourne. It was fantastic. Moving to Melbourne was out of Mildura.
Yeah, oh my God, I remember when I moved to a city, it blew my mind.
So you went to Sydney, didn't you? Trained in Sydney.
I did, yeah, I went to Sydney. I remember the first day I was in Sydney, I was at Central Station and I saw 2 people run into each other at the train station, and I was like, oh my God, what are the odds of 2 people in Sydney just running into each other accidentally? And then I was in Sydney for 5 years and I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't go to Newtown without running into somebody that I knew. They don't end up being so big, I guess, once you've been there for a while. But yeah.
I remember coming out of the station with Spencer Street in those days, and the sun was coming up. I was 2 months pregnant, barely knew the man I was married to. He didn't have a job, we had nowhere to stay, and I came out and the sun was rising, and I was thinking, it was like, this is the rest of my life. It was this absolute joy of being in a place on, my own person at 18.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. It was, the moments in your life that just, I thought, this is it. This is where I
What
want to
made you move to Melbourne together?
Well, it was my mother's idea, actually. I think there wasn't any place for me in Mildura as it wasn't. When she suggested that we might move to Melbourne the day after we were married, I was like, oh my God, my mother's giving me permission to move to Melbourne. Right. And I think I wonder what the neighbours would say. My mother was very supportive. She organised the wedding and that sort of stuff. Yeah. But she was very conservative, and I think with me in Melbourne, far enough away, that she wouldn't have the embarrassment and the shame of having a daughter who had to get married. Yeah, right. Back in those days, this was early 60s. Yeah. So I was absolutely overjoyed, to move to a city out of Mildura.
Yeah,
as you would have been to Sydney, out of Broken Hill. I mean, heavens. Big thing I liked moving to the city is in Mildura, everybody knew you. Yeah. You could not do anything. You knew if you did something, your mother would hear about it. It's true. And when I first got to Melbourne, nobody knows where I am. Nobody cares. Nobody even knows me.
I know.
I can just walk around here.
Anonymity is mind-blowing coming from a small town.
Yes.
Insane.
Nobody's going to report back. It is. That's one of the big things, being in a small country town. You're being observed all the time.
It's true. It's true. I remember once I went to the library to get a book for a school assignment, and by the time I got home, my dad's partner at the time was like, the librarians called me and said, you've borrowed this book and what's happening with you? What's wrong? La, la, la. I was like, it's for a school assignment.
That's right. And when I started nursing, I bought myself a 2-piece, bathers, sort of bikini, but not very brief, but still, I was about the only person who wore 2-piece bathers.
Quite the scandal.
So I just try. I wouldn't go to the public baths in it. I'd go up to the river and up to the loch and all that sort of stuff. But yes, I knew that word probably did get around a bit, because when I was nursing, one of the male nurses said to me, or something about it. I thought, fuck,
how do you know? Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yes, it's the same thing. You just can never. Yes, I wasn't going parading around, but people knew anyway.
Broken Hill's a funny place. I mean, it's interesting. When I was in Broken Hill, it was, or in most of the smaller towns that I grew up in, it was not super easy being queer in high school and stuff
yeah,
like that. But Broken Hill now is quite different.
Yes, it
yeah.
is. Well, they've had
And they have Broken
Queen of the
Hills
Desert out
Festival.
there.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
They really, yeah.
Yes, it is different. The world's changed,
Yes.
hasn't it, completely.